What options do those who are currently in the United States without documents have to be able to receive a green card? Hi, I'm attorney Megan Pastrana of Immigration for Couples, and my firm is dedicated exclusively to helping couples across the nation and across the world in navigating the U.S. immigration process. If you haven't already done so, I invite you to subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking the link below so you are notified when future videos are released. I regularly release new content and information about the world of couple-based immigration and provide you with support on your journey. I also invite you to follow our Facebook page, Immigration for Couples. I host a weekly live attorney chat on YouTube and Facebook at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesdays, and I answer the audience's questions live. So hopefully I'll see you on a future event and be able to answer your question. So let's dive into this topic. If you are currently in the United States, maybe you have, if you've entered the United States without documents, or maybe you have overstayed a visa and you have fallen out of status and you don't currently have status, you are probably very concerned, especially right now with the current administration and all of the new requirements, especially the registration requirement for those who are here without documents. And it's just a very precarious position to be in, regardless of the administration or political climate, but especially right now. And so I'm receiving a lot of questions from individuals about what are my options? Do I have any options to even receive a green card? And what does that process look like? And others are also concerned about whether or not they should wait. And I want to briefly touch on that. And I did record a separate video on that topic. But waiting, the question really is, what is it going to cost you to continue to wait? Waiting for things in immigration to get better, waiting for wait times to go down. That's not a strategy. It's imperative. I understand why you might feel that way because it's scary to take the first step, but it is not a strategy, and it's not a good strategy, because every day that you are here without status, you are at risk of deportation. And if you are to take forward motion and to take action and to file a case, you'll be one day closer to receiving your green card. Whereas the cost of not filing means you're going to continue to live in this precarious position. So I'd like to dive in now to the options that might be available to you. And I'm going to talk specifically about couple-based, family-based options because that is my firm's focus. But there may also be other options in the employment and humanitarian sectors of immigration. But we are focused right now on couple-based and family-based options. So typically there would be two potential paths that an individual would have to receiving a green card. The first path would be something called adjustment of status. So someone who entered the United States with a visa. So if you entered the United States, say you came on a tourist visa or a student visa, and you overstayed that visa and you didn't go home on time. Typically, an individual in that situation would be eligible for adjustment of status if he or she is married to a United States citizen, in some cases a lawful permanent resident, but typically we're talking about a US citizen. And also, if you have a US citizen child over the age of 21, that might be another basis for you to receive a green card through adjustment of status. And so adjustment of status is a process that happens entirely in the US. There is a very large application you file, a petition, a green card application, a work permit, an affidavit of support. You'll have to complete a medical exam, tons of evidence of your relationship and your immigration history. You file that all at once. That application is reviewed here in the US, and then you are scheduled for an interview at an immigration office where an officer is going to ask you both questions about your relationship, or if your child is petitioning for you, you would attend together and they would ask questions about your immigration history, questions about your relationship and things like that, and want to see the birth certificate and all of that. But the option is adjustment of status, typically for individuals who have entered and overstayed with a visa. So that's option one. Option two, another possible path, is something called a provisional waiver, also called an I-601A. That's the form. And so for individuals who have entered the United States without documents and are currently here without documents, typically the option and the only option that's available is something called a provisional waiver. And so that provisional waiver is a process by which you are asking immigration for forgiveness for coming to the United States without documents. And you also have to prove that your US citizen spouse would suffer extreme hardship. Also, if you have a lawful permanent resident or US citizen parent, you can also go through the provisional waiver process. And so uh, let's go through what that provisional waiver looks like. But again, this is an option that's available to individuals who entered without documents and do not have status currently. And this is the path to receive a green card. So the very first step, you're having to file a petition to prove your relationship. And then it's in the second step that you're asking for that waiver of forgiveness. And so that waiver of forgiveness, again, you're asking forgiveness for that entry and time in the US without documents. And then you're also proving hardship to your qualifying relative, which would be a US citizen or lawful permanent resident spouse, or in some cases, a parent. And then after that provisional waiver is approved, then you would need to leave the United States. Typically, our clients are gone on average a few weeks to a month. It really depends on your particular case and the country where you will have your interview. But then you will have this interview abroad at a U.S. embassy or consulate abroad. A final decision will be made that would allow you to then re-enter the United States as a green card holder. So those are really the two main paths that are available to individuals who are currently without status in the United States. If you'd like to learn more about the immigration process, I invite you to my free resource center at immigrationforcouples.com. Thanks for watching.